And welcome back to another episode of the Double Doink Podcast. My name is Brendan Deek. Thanks so much for tuning in today, guys. If you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button. It would be greatly appreciated. You can also rate the podcast and review the podcast wherever you listen to your podcast. It would also be greatly appreciated. We're talking strictly Philadelphia Eagles today. We are at the midway point of the season. Eagles taking on the Washington Commanders on Monday Night Football. Feels like it's been forever since the last time they played. Who else to talk Eagles with? And my friend Thomas Petersen. Thomas, what's going on? How you doing?
What's up, Brandon? This feels like another bye week, doesn't it?
It does. It feels
11-day
long.
break.
It feels longer than the actual bye week. Like when was last? Like
Yeah.
it feels like it's only been 8 days since Eagles have played. We're recording this on Friday morning. They played
Yeah.
last Thursday, but it feels weird.
Yeah, it does feel weird. I guess it's kind of good on them to have like two bye weeks right after each other. I guess that's pretty good for the health of the team, I guess.
There was a stretch. I think they had like 2 games in a 28-day span, and this is that span. So it's pretty odd. But we're gonna do, just for full disclosure, we're gonna do a mid-season report. So we're going to give off some awards, some superlatives before we do our Washington Commanders preview. Are you ready to get at it, Thomas?
Yeah, let's just talk about how mid-season point is so arbitrary now that there's 17 games. Like, when do we put it?
I know. So we're doing. I wanted to do the mid-season awards with you today, and then me and my co-host are doing a mid-season awards for the whole league next week. Like it's kind of all over the place. No, you're right.
What are we doing?
Yeah, exactly. I still catch myself with the record predictions and stuff like that, like adding up to 17. I'm still not used to it.
Yeah, I did the Jalen Hurts projected season projections. Like, oh yeah, I got to multiply by 17.
Yeah. And it makes like records and stats. Like I know this is like a good example. Like Devonta Smith broke the Eagles rookie receiving record last year, right? He did have. I think he only played like one extra half. He was the best Eagles rookie receiver they've had, but still, it's just records just don't matter. Don't matter. It's different now.
Yeah. Okay. Everything's different.
So we got 6 awards we're going to hand out today, and I'm going to get us going here. Thomas, what has been the biggest surprise for the Eagles through 8 games?
All right. So when I read this one, it's like biggest surprise, like in a positive way, right?
It could be both ways. I guess we'll go positive because we got a negative one coming up next.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah. So I kind of wanted to go like kind of different here. So not just take the obvious one.
Yeah, there's a big obvious one that I'm gonna hammer. So if you want to go,
right. So I think the biggest surprise is the health of the team. Okay. After this many weeks, and the fact that we're only like the lost Eric Barnett, who they replaced pretty neatly at the trade deadline with Robert Quinn. But other than that, I mean, Jordan Davis was a big blow. If not for the run defense aspect of it, then at least for his own development and how we wanted him to get more integrated within the defense. So other than that, the team has been really healthy. Like an offensive lineman have missed a game here and there, but no major injuries yet. Hopefully that doesn't come. But I mean, just for what we've seen from the team for so many years and the amount of players been throwing on and off of IR, it's been a pleasant surprise. And I think we talked about this as well in the offseason, that this light offseason and training camp activity really paid off in terms of these players are fresh. And then you hit the bye week here, and they're really looks like they're good to go for the rest of the season.
Yeah, it's a great point with the light training camp. I was actually kind of thinking about that the other day. I was like, all the talk about they should be playing the stars in preseason and they should be ramping up a training camp. It's proving everybody wrong, all the doubters on that side. And yeah, the health has been awesome. They have been the healthiest team in the NFL, above expectation this year. It's the one thing that I still kind of have on my mind of kind of what could derail this team is the blue medical tent. I think it's probably
true for every team.
Yeah, exactly. And the one position that stands out to me is safety. Like they really need Marcus Epps and Chauncey Gardner-Johnson to stay healthy.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And we just saw the injury scare with Josh Allen. I mean, the report is out there. If it's a partially torn UCL elbow ligament there, then that's about a week. But if it's fully torn, he's out.
Yeah,
like Bills fans were holding their breath for that entire week,
and they probably still are. Like this is
probably
still off topic, but like I'd be worried. He hasn't practiced the last 2 days, and yeah, you're right.
He was slinging it around pretty good there after the injury.
He was holding his elbow, and then he just launches a 60-yard freaking rocket
Right.
play, like a
Right.
superhuman that guy is. But
Ben
yeah,
Roethlisberger style, like, I don't know if I'm gonna play, guys, or just
get,
going out throwing it like crazy.
get the painkillers in you before the game.
Right.
Burger was the king of that. Yeah,
What's yours?
you're yeah, just one sec. Yeah, you're right on the health. What right on the health aspect of this. It's been an underrated, I guess, storyline of this team. Mine, and it's the obvious one, Jalen Hurts.
Yeah.
Jalen Hurts' development, Jalen, the way that kid has played this year. Like I was looking at some analytics stats on him last night, and just across the board compared to every other quarterback, it's remarkable. He's fifth in EPA per play out of all quarterbacks, second in completion percentage, 4 or 6 in completion percentage above expectation plus EPA. Like no matter how you look at it, Jalen Hurts has been a top 7 quarterback in
Top
the
5.
NFL.
Easily.
Top 5. Like just in every stat, he's at least 7th. Like I think he's been a top 4 quarterback in the NFL this year. But like no matter what statistic you look at, he's been a top quarterback in the NFL, and that's something that the Eagles probably didn't expect. Maybe they thought in the building this could happen, but this is above their expectations. This is kind of the biggest pleasant surprise for the team, and it surprised both of us. Like I came into the season thinking that Jalen Hurts could be good, could get better. I didn't expect this, and it's completely caught me off guard. And it's been awesome to watch. Like the kid is just rolling right now. And the other thing too, and I know this is brought up a lot, but I didn't want to bring this up on this segment. His leadership and the way he goes about things has kind of tailed off into the rest of the team. It's almost like he's given his qualities to the rest of the team. Like I think you had a good Devonta Smith quote. I think you tweeted maybe a couple of days ago, just like how much fun
Right.
the team is having. Like he's been almost like it's spread around his emotions, his ability to lead. It's spread around
Yeah,
this
this
locker
team
room.
first approach to
Yeah.
things. I mean, so that quote from a pretty good article by Jeff Kerr. So it kind of states that like how he likes playing in Philly.
Mm-hmm.
And really, I think his quote was, "I don't think there's anywhere else that I want to play. The city has the type of fans you want. Fans are all into it, not just one sport, but the city in general. That's Philadelphia, and I love it." So basically, you put AJ Brown on the Eagles after Devontae's season last year, where he was like really good rookie season, really good like stats performance from him. Then he put in AJ Brown instead, and along with him, and that just distributes the targets more. So it's kind of like you can look at it from the selfish approach from wide receivers that he's not getting targeted enough and he's not being used enough. And I mean, that's a conversation we can have about a lot of players like Dallas Goedert and Quez Watkins. And why aren't we seeing Quez Watkins more? Well, we're not seeing him more because they're getting all of these star players the ball.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's only that many targets to spread around. And he
they're okay
acknowledges that. Yeah, he's okay with it because they're, and also like winning goes a long way into
Mm-hmm.
that. But also to your point in the how contagious Hurts mentality is around this is like even though they're winning, like last year they were losing and they still pulled off a good run there at the second half of the season. So even then when they've been hitting adversity, they battle through it. This year it's been more of, all right, don't get up like don't get too high. Like don't get to a point where you're neglecting the teams you're about to play and where you're kind of going a little bit looser on the practice and all this, just and keeping guys focused. I think that he's the perfect example to have guys lead by that way.
Exactly, and his play on the field, his what he's doing off the field. It's you can't emphasize it enough. Like I'm always kind of the guy that like pushes down on off field leadership and pushes down on kind of how important that can be. Like your on play field matters the most, but it's just that kid he's special right now, and like the sky's the limit for him. And it's again, it completely caught me off guard. I went into the season saying he probably has a 50-50 chance of being the starting quarterback next year. And I thought that was a good take. And I think most people agreed with it. It's 99% right now. Like this is the leader of the franchise. He's not going anywhere.
Right.
And
now we can talk about, is he getting extended this season or are they playing him more into the fourth year?
Like he's been everything this team could have asked for. And he's the main reason why they are 8-0 and where they are today. Okay, next one. What has been the biggest disappointment for the Eagles this year? This one's kind of tough because they're 8-0, but I want to see what you had here.
Oh, I can think of a lot, to be honest, but yeah, I'll go the untraditional way here. I'd say special teams.
Okay.
I did not expect them to be this anonymous, and we've seen a bunch of muffed punts that fortunately have taken an Eagles bounce. But I think a lot of games could have been a lot different had those plays not been like had the ball moved a little bit in the other direction. And I think it's been subpar both kick and punt return.
Hmm.
Um, we've seen field goal was nice. Cameron Dicker came through in that game. It was a Cardinals game, and they win by that field goal. And but I mean, other than that, I mean, Jake Elliott has been solid. No issues there. That's not where I'm going with it. It's more the return game has been really mediocre, and it goes from
Yeah.
everything from blocking to returner.
So they are 23rd in special teams DVOA right now. So yeah, your take's right. Like they have been the bottom of the pack in the league. I do think it's kind of, I don't know if I'm going to word this right. I think it's kind of constructed this way though, like the roster, right? Like Howie Roseman knew there was probably going to be some decline on special teams, right? Like it's hard to have three phases of your game be like top 10. They are right now fourth in offensive, or fourth in offensive DVOA, third in defensive DVOA. So I agree with you. Special teams has been lacking, and look what happened to the Green Bay Packers in the playoffs last year against the 49ers, right? Like a block punt ruined their season. So
Yeah,
that stuff can't happen. Like you can't have block punts, you can't have block field goals. Like that
exactly.
stuff
Those,
has
those
to
are
get,
also kind of like disastrous thing that
yeah.
fortunately
But
hasn't
they had
happened
a
yet.
couple, right? No, didn't they have they had a block field goal? Was it the Arizona game? Was it Arizona? Right, there was a block field goal, and there was a block punt. I think there's been two this year. I could be wrong. I know there was a block field goal. I
Yeah, I
don't
think
know.
you're right on the block field goal as
Yeah.
well. Not remembering
Um,
a block punt. But
I'd
either
have
way,
to
to
go.
that point, to the punt return thing, I mean, it's gotten to a point where they're putting Devontae Smith back there to get a spark. I mean, they have
Yeah.
that, and that should say everything that they don't believe in their return game to a point where they're putting in Devontae Smith because they need a spark. Sorry, right? So we suck at special teams. That's basically what you're saying.
Mhm. So yeah, I think special teams is definitely something to watch, but I do think it's kind of just the way the roster is constructed. Like they pour most of the resources in places like wide receiver, offensive line, like, and those guys that they're putting money into just
Oh
aren't
yeah, but
on.
you're also not putting. I mean, you're not putting resources into special teams like that. It's more like a coaching thing. And I think like Michael Clay isn't really doing his job there.
Yeah, I think it's been back to back years. Like they weren't very good on special teams last year either.
True.
That so definitely something to watch. My biggest disappointment, and I'm kind of nitpicking here, but I really, 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 really love Jordan Davis heading into this season, and I just wish I saw more of him. And I wish the injury didn't happen. I think you might be able to translate that kind of into maybe draft, the whole draft picks that the Eagles did have this year. Like we haven't seen a lot of N'Kobe Dean, but I think that's more because T.J. Edwards and Kaiser White are playing well than more
Yeah.
N'Kobe not playing well.
Yeah, I was about to say
So
because that whole like both Jordan like the three first picks they're both N'Kobe and Cameron they're not playing
yeah,
because
because
Jason Kelsey's still playing at an All
yeah,
Pro level. GJ was just playing at an All Pro level most of the time. And Jordan Davis, yeah, I get what you're saying, but I'm also not. No, no, I agree with you for the most part. I see the idea of having him in on first down, and if you stop the opposing team for 2 yards or less, you put in a more of a pass rushing package afterwards because 2nd and 7 and longer is more of a pass situation. And if you have guys on your team that you deem better pass rushers, I don't see the problem in putting them in there.
for
But
sure.
also, I'd like to see Jordan work a little bit more in pass rushing
Yeah.
situations as well.
Because they spend so much resources on the guy, right? Like he's a first round pick that
True.
they traded
Right.
up to get him. So like this isn't a guy that you want to be a run stuffing defensive tackle. Like this is a
Right.
franchise changing player you invested in. So you kind of need him to turn out to be a pass rusher with the resources you poured in. So yeah, again nitpicking here. I still got a couple other ones. Like I've been really disappointed in Milton Williams this year. I think he's been kind of the biggest disappointment out of any player. He hasn't really taken a step. I think he's played okay the last few games,
Yeah.
but
It's
um,
okay. It's nothing flashy.
yeah. Josh Sweat might be another one too. Josh Sweat's played
I gotta
okay.
disagree with you there.
I wish I saw like I wanted to take over. Like I haven't seen him take over a game. Again, I'm not a film junkie like you, so you probably definitely seen a lot more. But I just I wanted more out of him, I think, and the pass rush as a whole is something I'm going to be watching very closely down the stretch these next 9 games, because
I
this
think
is going to
Josh
be the
Sweat and Hassan Reddick are both better pass rushers than what their stats indicate. Javon Hargrave got sacks in bunches, but I'd say that Josh Sweat and Hassan Reddick have been more consistent pass rushers than Javon Hargrave has been. Like, he popped off in a couple of games here, but it's sacks come in bunches, and like half a second of quicker release from quarterbacks is the difference between whether you get a strip sack or you don't. So they can beat their guys handily, but not get sacks and not get production from it. And we're not going to see as many splashy plays because they're not highlighted when they get all the sacks and all this. But I think both of those guys are winning, and they're winning in different fashions. I think that's what I pour more into consideration for it, because it's consistent. It's not just one game when they pop off. So I can see these guys having major breakout games where like, oh, they got 3 sacks or something like that. Like Hassan Reddick had against, it wasn't against Washington. We had 2.5 sacks and like 2 forced fumbles, something like that.
Yeah, and the Jacksonville, he was awesome.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he was the reason they won that game.
Yeah, but I see what you mean. If you're going into the season thinking they'd be like Joshua would be like 15 sack season, something like that. I mean, yeah, of course it's kind of
I know. I'm not, I guess, not worried about the pass rush or anything. Like, I just think if there's something that can tail off down the next 9 games, I think the pass rush is probably the most realistic to tail off. Like, I think this offense is going to continue to roll. They'll probably run some speed bumps, but they're going to be a top 5 offense, in my opinion, the rest of the way. So it's going to be it's going to be interesting to see if the pass rush can hold up. Okay, favorite play of the year.
Ooh, I like that one. There are a bunch to go to here, right?
There's one that comes to mind, but I'll let you go first.
All right, I'll say I'll let you pick any of the Devontae Smith catches against Washington.
Yeah, okay, that's a good go.
Because that was just classic Devontae Smith tiptoe. How do you make that catch situation? So I mean that was just it was bonkers.
Yeah, and it was funny because they hit you back to back right in the face. Like,
right,
people on you catches, and then I think I don't know if he went out for a play because he kind of landed. Yeah, because he went out for a couple plays because he landed funny. I think he got the wind knocked out of him, and then he came back on third down. They didn't get
when he elevates over 2 guys and he lands right on his back, loses his air, and comes right back, makes a bonkers catch.
Yeah, and he does another Moss catch. Like that's a good one. I didn't even think of that one. Mine is AJ Brown's 3rd touchdown against the Steelers.
Yeah, that's my other
pointing out both the
the
defensive backs. That one sticks on my mind. That's been my favorite game of the year, is watching AJ Brown absolutely torch that Steelers secondary. Jalen Hurts was awesome that game, and that play just sticks to mind. So
also the Jalen Hurts touchdown against who was it? Was that against Jaguars? I think it was against Jaguars, where he plowed through two linebackers for a touchdown when they were down 14-0.
Yeah, that was that one. The ball kind of came out. He just got through. That was a game-changing play.
Because he was so hyped up there, and they needed that because they were sloppy on offense, and that kind of sparked that second quarter explosion there against the Jaguars.
The run against the Vikings too, where it was like a 26-yard run where he took like 3 I think it was the Vikings, where he took like 3 defenders in with him. That's probably like his biggest play maybe of the year. Yeah, there's a lot. Like, there's been so many plays you can go with this year. Okay, next one. Best offensive player, and it cannot be Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, this one is obvious.
Yeah. His name's AJ Brown.
Yeah, his name's AJ Brown.
I was hoping I thought you were going to go with an offensive lineman here, because I thought that would have been very Thomas Petersen-esque.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a bunch. Like, if you were to pick an offensive lineman, though, who would you take?
It's got to be Lane Johnson or Kelsey. I know.
Dickerson. No, I disagree with you there. I think it's Landon Dickerson.
You think it's Lane Dickerson? Okay.
Oh yeah, and I definitely do not think it's Lane Johnson. I don't think Lane Johnson. He was this close to making my disappointments.
Interesting. Wow, Lane Johnson catches strays.
I mean, it's and I got to admit, I'm on board with this. At least I was for the beginning of the season. In his streak of not allowing QB hits or sacks, and then the more I watched games this year, the more I realized that's because Jalen Hurts is bailing him out of a lot of situations where he gets beat. Okay. Like, if it's any other quarterback, not named Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson, or Patrick Mahomes, there are so many more sacks given up by the Eagles' offensive line. And I think the whole conversation about the offensive line as from a hype perspective would be a lot different. I think Lane Johnson has been much more susceptible to bull rushes this season and inside moves. And I think Mailata is catching a lot of straight because more of those plays are becoming sacks because Hurts doesn't have that good of it's not easier to send to the left side when you're a right-handed quarterback. Makes sense. So whenever Lane is getting beat, he's more frequent to roll out of the pocket. But I wouldn't say he's been disappointed because I think he's still a real good player. He's playing at a high level, definitely. But I think Landon Dickerson for me is absolutely the best player on the offensive line right now, or this season so far.
He's been a wrecking ball in the run game. That Jacksonville Jaguars game, like that offensive line in the run game was just throwing them around. And there's Jason Kelce, of course, can be on there. We did an midseason all pro team for the score. I got to write up the Kelce brothers. I did Jason Kelce and Travis Kelce. Lane Johnson was our right tackle for the all pro team, Thomas.
Mm-hmm. No, it makes sense. I mean, from a stats perspective, it makes a ton of sense. I mean, you look up at it, his pass blocking efficiency is way up there. Hasn't allowed a QB hit or a sack in I don't know how many snaps. But go watch the Texans game. The only reason the Eagles don't fumble the ball in their own end zone is because Jalen Hurts is bailing out Lane Johnson. That happened 3 more times that game.
Jerry Hughes was a little bastard.
He was bully.
He was screwing
bullied
around.
them.
Well, are you worried at all about Jordan Mailata?
No.
Okay.
No. I would be worried if he was the kind of player that kind of sunk his head and got mad about it or something like that. But I think he's going to use it as motivation to get better, and that's just more scary than it's depressing.
Yeah, I wanted to see more of him. I was hoping he would kind of become a top 5 left tackle in the league at this point. I think he probably still can be.
Yeah, I mean it's going to go up and down. I mean, look at Trent Williams. I mean, he was the unanimous best offensive player in football last season, arguably. I mean, at least the best offensive lineman. I mean, he's slowed down. It comes and goes.
Yeah. Okay, next one. There's a lot of ways you can go with this one. Best defensive player. I guess we can go with favorite, maybe not best. Let's go with who's been your favorite defensive player you've watched.
I couldn't decide here. It's either Darius Slay or James Bradbury.
Mm-hmm.
And you can pick either one of them, and you can make a solid case for why one would be better than the other. I hate the argument of, well, they don't want to throw to Slay, so they're throwing at Bradbury. That doesn't make any sense at all. No. Because the way the Eagles are playing defense, they're not man-locking on anyone. So it's not that they're going into a game and saying, oh, we're not going to target Darius Slay. And then they're looking at where he's at, and they don't go to that side. It's simply not how it works. I mean, he's one of the most targeted cornerbacks in the NFL, along with Bradbury. Bradbury just even more. So they're testing these guys, and they're not allowing anything to be thrown at them. It's been absurd how well they've been playing.
You can make a case for Chauncey Gardner-Johnson as well. He's got 5 interceptions this year, leading the league. I'm going to go a different route. I'm going to go with Son Reddick. I love watching that guy play. I'm a big pass rush guy, of course. That's kind of where my mind leads to. I always go back to that Jacksonville game with this defense because think about it. Trevor Lawrence had the ball, the chance to drive down the field and win the game, and one player ended that. And I think he's in the top echelon of pass rushers in the NFL. He is a top 7 to 10 pass rusher in the league. The stats show it. He's been, I think, 5th in sacks over the last 2 years out of all defensive players in the NFL. And I just think it was a home run signing to get him. And he hasn't disappointed at all. Like, even he's making plays in coverage, like the clip that you posted. Like,
yeah,
he's doing it all. And I think he's been such a good addition.
You just know that was Gannon's best play of the year.
How horny was Gannon on the sideline?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, how horny was that guy watching that? It was like the smile that probably lit up on his face. It was over for Gannon, and I really hope he doesn't put him in coverage more watching that. But whole other conversation.
Right. I agree with you. I mean, when you have a guy who's taking over games and winning games for you,
yeah.
I mean that in itself is special, and I can definitely see that. Just to stay with Chauncey Gardner-Johnson just a little bit, just play devil's advocate here. He's leading the league in interceptions, but also the way he's getting them. Brandon Graham had that hit on what's his face from Dallas, the guy who doesn't play anymore.
Cooper Rush.
Cooper Rush.
Yeah.
So he had the hit on Cooper Rush, so the ball gets underthrown. Otherwise, that's a long touchdown. Then you had a Javon Hargrave hit on Davis Mills that got picked off. Then you have a tip pass from TJ Edwards that got picked off. You have a deflected pass from James Bradbury lands right in his hand. So like he's not doing anything really other than being in the right spot, and that in itself is underrated. I mean,
Yeah, no,
you you,
exactly.
you got to be in the spot to make the interceptions. That's how it is. But it's
Yeah,
not like he is dominating somebody in coverage and making
for
these
sure.
picks. He is one of the most
Johnny on the spot.
inconsistent tacklers in the league in terms of safety. He's missing so many tackles, and his run support is frustrating at best. And it's not like he is shutting down everything that gets thrown at him. So while I will say he is a big play safety, he makes big plays, and that in itself, I will agree with you, is a reason you can say that he's been one of the biggest difference maker on the defense. But he is by no means flawless, and I also think it kind of goes into the transition to deep safety because the fact that he's doing as much as he is right now after just 8 games of playing safety since the last time he played safety was at Florida.
Yeah.
So that is super impressive. Just to push back a little bit on him because he's by no means perfect.
Okay, I want to have this conversation with you. I know it's early and we're going to be pointed the offseason here. The Eagles have both of their safeties right now are coming up in free agency. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, Marcus Epps are both free agents at the end of the year. Who are you paying? Are you paying 0 of them? Are you paying 1 of them? Are you paying 2 of them? This conversation we can have definitely down the road.
Yeah,
but
I think this is a little bit of a TBD because I'd like to see Chauncey become more of a consistent player. If he can continue making this big plays as he is, and also like get more fundamentally sound, I'll definitely pay him. But Epps has been pretty good, and I don't think Epps is going to command that much in free agency.
So if you take a look at it right now, the highest paid safeties in the NFL, Derwin James, got paid $19 million this offseason. I'm assuming Chauncey Gardner-Johnson wanted to get paid. That's where he's starting. Minkah Fitzpatrick is making $18.25 million. Jamal Adams at 17.5. If you're going to open up the checkbook for Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, that's where you're playing. That's the playing field you're going to be in.
Yeah, that's why you want to see consistent play. Like you don't want to take these random, not to use a negative word here, but kind of random interceptions that goes off a pass deflections. You don't want to base your 20 mil per year off of that.
And I think the Eagles will pay one of these guys. I'll make a prediction right now. It's early. I think they're going to pay Marcus Epps. Let Chauncey Gardner-Johnson hit the open market. I'm assuming Chauncey Gardner-Johnson wants to hit the open market. Like he's been talking about this contract. That's basically why he got out of New Orleans, right? He was whining about his deal and he wanted a new extension. So I'm assuming he's going to want to hit the open market. I just want to have a conversation because I want to prep Eagles fans. It might be one and done with Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. Like there is a realistic shot that he's probably not back on the roster. I would love to see him back. I think he's a great player. He's kind of got that vibe to him, that kind of that feisty vibe that you like.
Right.
And he also kind
of
got
a great personality. He's making big plays.
Yeah,
just needs to see a little bit more step up there in consistency, and then
it's going to cost.
Could be a really good.
Yeah, he's going to cost a lot of money. So
yeah, I mean James Bradbury's too. The difference is Chauncey's young.
Yeah, James Bradbury's over 30 years old. But we'll save this conversation for another day. Okay, last one. I guess we'll kind of open this up to 2. Record prediction and maybe just overall thoughts on
regular season, right?
Yeah, regular season record prediction and maybe overall thoughts on maybe the second half of the year.
Okay, so I will say, I'm just looking at the schedule here. I have a super bad feeling about the Washington game here. I think they could lose to Washington. I think they could lose to the Giants, and I think they lose to the Cowboys. Not really afraid of the Saints. Not afraid of the Bears. Not afraid of the Packers or Colts. Titans is a little bit up in the air. So I want to say something around somewhere around 14-3 and 13-4.
Okay. 4 losses down the stretch. So you think they could go 5-4 in the next 9 games? That would be disappointing. Okay. I think it's 14-3. I think that's the way to go. I'm not worried about this Commanders game at all. We'll talk about it.
We'll get to that.
Yeah, but we're going to do a preview, so we'll talk about that. Not worried about the Colts. The Packers one's funny because it's Sunday night. Like, who knows what the Packers' record's going to be like in 3 weeks, what that team's even going to look like in 3 weeks. They've been so banged up. So they just lost Rashawn Gary for the season. It looks like Eric Stokes is going to be okay. Looks like Aaron Jones is going to be okay. They lost Romeo Dobbs
Yeah,
for 4 to 6
physically,
weeks.
but
Not going to
mentally,
play.
are they going to be okay heading into the
Yeah, I think the Packers. I talked about this on Monday with Brett Coleman on the podcast. I think the Packers are done. Like I think that like they're 3-6. They've been a mess. I don't see them being competitive in the NFC the rest of the way. But like you still got Aaron Rodgers back there, and he's still in a high level quarterback. So who knows what he's going to be playing like in that game. So I want to lean win there, but I think that one's up in the air. The game that's really freaking me out, and I think I mentioned this on this podcast, December 4th against the Tennessee Titans in Tennessee, or sorry, it's in Philly, sorry. But that Mike Vrabel defense just screams problems for this offense. Like look what they did to Patrick Mahomes on Sunday night. They play hard and they play feisty. I feel like that could be a letdown spot after Sunday night against the Green Bay Packers, right? I think that's going to be their first loss. And I also think there's a realistic possibility here that they lose back-to-back games because they head to New Jersey to take on the Giants the week after that, and they haven't played the Giants yet. Brian Daboll's new system, like I think there could be like that Packers, Titans, Giants 3 games could be a really maybe adversity look up for this team. Like
Yeah.
this is where they're going to get tested. And then they head to the Chicago. I'm not worried about that. Cowboys Christmas Eve game is funny because they could have the division wrapped up by then, and so who knows what that game's going to be like. And then they host the Saints on New Year's Day, and then they finish off against the Giants. So I'm going to go with 14-3. I think they lose 3 games. I think one of those games is probably going to be the last week of the season when they have everything wrapped up, when they're not playing the starters. So I think they have 2 legitimate losses coming over these next 9 games. And I think it's 2 of them are going to probably come in those 4 games: Packers, Titans, Giants, or the Cowboys. That Cowboys New Year's Eve game. I hope it's not like. Of course, you want the Eagles to lock it up by then, but that game screams juice if both team starters are playing. That'd be a
Oh,
fun
yeah.
one. Yeah.
But it's in Dallas. You just know it's going to be like a bunch of terrible calls, weird atmosphere,
Yeah.
super annoying team. I hate when Eagles play in Dallas. I hate Dallas.
So what you're saying is you don't like the Dallas Cowboys, Thomas, as an Eagles fan?
I hate playing in Dallas. I hate when teams are playing in Dallas because it's like I get so many vibes to when I played against one of the teams here in Denmark called Copenhagen Towers. Like
Okay.
whenever you would play in their stadium, every single call would go towards them, and it was so obvious, and everybody knew it. I mean, it was like you just knew that somebody on the opposing team fucked up in some way and made a big ass penalty, and that would never be called, and you'll get called for everything. That's how I feel about when the Eagles playing in Dallas, and it's been evident so many times, like the not clear recovery,
Oh,
pass interference on Dallas Goddard, that
that was
long
the same
touchdown.
game too, right? That was the same
That was
game.
the same game. It was ugh. I
That
think
game,
that's why it's kind of intensified those 2 things because that game was just so and
that game's
super
still
annoying.
6 in my mind. I'm still not over that game.
Right.
Okay. Let's transition to a Washington preview. We're not going to spend too much time on this.
Yep.
On the Eagles, like there's not much to talk about here. Those teams just met a few weeks, I guess like 6 weeks ago. Not much to bring over from the Texans game either. The run defense has to be better. I'm not too worried about Washington's run offense, so I think they can be okay. Like they don't have Damian Pierce back there. Brian Robinson, sorry, is a good running back, but I don't think this is a game where they have to worry about getting run over.
Definitely not getting run over. The biggest difference in that and from the Washington offensive standpoint to the Eagles defense is that when Taylor Heineke has been finding Terry McLaurin a lot more and has been utilized, both him and Josh Dotson, a lot more than what Carson Wentz did. Carson has a tendency to hold on to the ball too long, whereas Taylor Heineke has been more like just putting it up in the air early and when the pressure's been mounting, and then Terry makes phenomenal plays down the field. And I feel like that could happen the same way. Then something we didn't see in the last time they met each other is that throw a ball up for Terry McLaurin and let him make a big play. I mean, I think that has a very realistic for them to score a couple of touchdowns on the Eagles that way.
And another thing is too, the one player that's kind of given Darius Slay some problems since he's become an Eagle has been Terry McLaurin. If you take a look at the stats against him, so 2020 week 1, McLaurin had 61 yards. Week 17, he had 40 yards and a touchdown. Week 15, 51 yards. Week 17, 61 yards. And last game, he had 102 yards. He had a quiet 100-yard receiving game. For some reason, McLaurin causes the Eagles some problems, so that's a guy you definitely want to watch out for. I just the Taylor Heineke thing, like he just makes some boneheaded mistakes, and I just I,
Right.
I don't
He just have some plays, some games where he's just out of his mind.
yeah. Like if you take a look at like he's played well for the Washington, I guess, this season, but 38 quarterbacks have taken at least 100 snaps this year. Taylor Heineke is 31st in EPA per play out of this quarterback. Carson Wentz is 33rd. So it's another year where Washington just not getting good quarterback play. So yeah, like Taylor Heineke can kind of get hot, and we've seen it and stretches. It just I feel like this Eagles defense is well matched up against Taylor Heineke. Like Taylor Heineke's not a guy that's going to sit there and pick you apart. Tom Brady's the quarterback that worries me with this defense, or like Patch. Like of course Tom Brady would worry any defense, but just a guy that can sit in the pocket if you're not getting pressure and just kind of blow you apart.
I think the area of the Washington that really concerns me, and why I think this game can be much more up in the air, and where we have a lot like the Texans feeling heading into halftime, is that the Washington defensive line is just having a way with the Eagles whenever they play. Those guys on Washington's like Jonathan Allen, Deron Payne, and now Chase Young, and Montez Sweat. Those four have just been like they've been having their way with the Eagles offensive line where they've been meeting each other, and the way that like they run stunts and games and blitzes to kind of to mix all that up in a way that causes confusion for the Eagles offensive line. And if they're playing as bad as they did against the Texans, if that carries over to this game, there's a very real chance that these plays down the field for Terry McLaurin or whatever, that those will be the ones that put Washington on top of the Eagles, because I believe this is a game where Jalen Hurts is going to be running around for his life, where you see these fumbles in the pocket, maybe where he's trying to do too much, or where he's just getting beat off of his blind side, and where he isn't bailing out the O-line as much as he did against the Texans, because sometimes that's just bound to go wrong. This may be one of those times.
So you have some concerns about the Eagles O-line
against defensive lines with as much talent as Washington has. Yeah, because their defensive coordinator always knows that, and they always send enough pressure where it's one-on-one battles on the offensive line against the D-line. And when you have those four guys I just mentioned in one-on-one blocks, some of them are going to win. And what we've seen from Hurts is that stretches of his games, he's taken off. And if he's getting into that mind and into that mode, that's just going to happen continuously. So that might happen.
So you brought up the name Chase Young. I think it's important just to let listeners know he's been limited at practice the last 2 weeks. He hasn't fully practiced yet. We're not going to find out until Saturday because it's a Monday game. So actually, no. So he was limited in practice yesterday. He's probably going to be limited in practice today. And then Saturday will be kind of the indicator. We'll get the injury report. My guess is he's playing. He was activated off the injured reserve for the 21-day practice window on November 3rd. So that was 8 days ago. He was doing a lot of stuff off the field before being activated from that 21-day window. So I would be prepared for Chase Young to make his debut on Monday Night Football this week. And you said it, like Deron Payne is playing out of his mind. He was so good against the Vikings last week. I watched that whole game because I had not a large wager, but I wagered pretty heavily on Washington +3 last week, ended up being a push. So that was the game that like I was zoned in on. Wasn't the greatest game to watch full 60 minutes of, I'll tell you that. But Deron Payne and Jonathan Allen were monsters in that game against the Vikings offense.
They're really good.
Yeah, so that's definitely something. That's definitely something to watch. Any worries? Like any other worries you got for this game? Like we can kind of wrap it up after this.
No, not really. I mean, St. Juice has been playing okay, but I still think whatever you can get AJ Brown, Devontae Smith down the field. Yeah, that should be the main focus of this game. I don't think it's going to be a run game because, again, that D-line, if you're going into this game thinking you're going to run them over, probably not going to happen. So I think if they learned anything against the Steelers, is that A.J. Brown down the field is a pretty good idea. And if they learned anything from the last time they played Washington, they should learn that Devontae Smith down the field is a pretty good idea. So hopefully we're going to see a lot more of that and kind of taking away the Washington D-line and not a million screens like we've seen other games when they're going up against good D-lines and then just, blowing that up.
So this is something that could be completely non-factor, but we've all seen in the news what's going on with Washington.
Oh
They
yeah.
yes. Dan Snyder is being sued by the Virginia Attorney General office. The NFL is too. It's a whole different conversation. But they did that ridiculous Brian Robinson release. Holy crap, that was the most disgusting thing I've ever seen in my entire life. There's a lot of distractions with this team right now. So I don't know if this will be the fully focused Washington team, but there's been being on the Washington Commanders or Washington football team or for the last few years, I'm sure there's distractions every game, right? Like it's probably not
Yeah.
nothing new to this organization.
And the Ron Rivera's job with Washington, has he been under the most stress as a head coach for all like non-football related stuff?
Did you see he had to give a speech to his teammates about the release they did on Brian Robinson? Like, talk about just throwing your coach under the bus here. Like, I don't get, I feel awful for him. His mom just passed away about a week and a half ago. He's got to deal with this crap now. Like,
the fact that they're even winning games is unbelievable.
So Benjamin St. Juice, you brought up his name, Canadian boy. Shout out Benjamin St. Juice. He had an interview in a Quebec because he's from Montreal, so a French-speaking newspaper in Quebec, and he was saying that the team is sick and tired of this. Basically, like they're sick and tired of Washington's antics. They're sick and tired of all the noise around it. It's been a dark cloud on this team, so the players are feeling it, and it's just like that. I just wanted to bring that up because I don't know if the Eagles are going to see the most composed and happy.
Nah,
team, if that makes sense. Okay, before we get out of here, I want to do a score prediction. You said you're worried about this game, so are you predicting an L here?
Nah, I can't predict an L. Not at home, at least. Like at home, prime time. If the D-line shows up the way they did before, they should be able to keep the score down a little bit. But I think it will be kind of the same thing where we come out and when we go into halftime, it's like 14-14 or 17-17, and then the Eagles pull it off at the end. So I'm gonna go something like let's go 31-21 Eagles.
Okay.
So Redskins, it's not Redskins. Commanders cover, right?
So the Eagles right now, I think, are 10.5-point favorites.
Yeah.
Let me just double check that.
Yeah, I think you're right. They're at least double digits. And
so
it's
that's
not
back-to-back primetime games are going to be double-digit favorites. That's pretty spectacular. The Eagles are 11-point favorites currently right now. They'll probably drop to about 10.5 before game time. 31-21 sounds about right. I'm going to go with 28-13. I think Washington's defense is going to kind of hold them. I think the Eagles kind of take off towards the end. I think the Eagles
kind of like Texans.
Yeah, a little bit like the Texans game. I think they might get off to a little bit of a rusty start, but I think they kind of just overpower them towards the end. Mm-hmm. Washington's defense, like they're good, but they're not like amazing. They're 12th in EPA per play right now, and there's plays to be had. Like they are 18th in drop back EPA per play, so it's a tougher team to run against. They're second in rush EPA per play, so it's not really going to be a run game. This could be like the Jalen Hurts game, the second quarter that we saw. And I think it was week 3 against the Commanders. That could definitely something that could happen again.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get out of here. Thanks for listening, guys. Really appreciate it. Shout out Veterans Day and Remembrance Day. It is November 11th. So shout out to all the people who have donated their time, donated their money, donated to being a veteran and helping every country around the world. Really appreciate that. Wanted to give them a shout out. What's it called in Denmark? Do you guys have a day for this? No? Interesting. It's Remembrance Day in Canada. I think it's called Veterans Day in America.
I think they're starting to do it now in Denmark. I mean, they did some some soccer related. They had some events like that, but we've never really had it before. And I don't think it's not as out there as it is in other countries because I don't know if it's because the military in Denmark is so small and not really engaged in any that we know of. I know I have some family members that are in the army, but it's more like missions here and there. It's not really like massive all-out warfare or what like you know what I mean. Country, it's a very different country. Like and to be honest, it's like when they started doing it at the soccer game, I was a little bit like, this is just trying to be America.
Yeah. America loves their military, that's for sure. Thank you guys for listening. Think about your loved ones. Think about everyone today when you're listening to this podcast, and remembering Remembrance Day and Veterans Day around the world. Make sure to hit the subscribe button. Make sure to hit the like button. Get those YouTube subscribers up, man. Kind of slow down a little bit. Let's get those up. Let's get those rocking. I know I haven't posted a lot on YouTube, but tons of content coming. your way before the end of the season. And we will talk to you later.
Go Birds!